to Philadelphia. And now their next 2 games are at the Ravens, then home against the Chiefs. Those games will be played in a 5-day span. Panic time? Woo. Here's Mike Tomlin.
But how do you keep this loss from snowballing and carrying into the next 2 games?
It's a loss. I mean, let's not get dramatic.
Okay. What an answer. So, and that's exactly the right thing, obviously,
Absolutely.
for him to say he's as good a coach as we've seen in the league in a very long time. However, if you are a fan of the Steelers, should you be panicking?
Yeah, you should. And I'm going to tell you that they're not as good as their record says they are. I mean, they really aren't. He's a great coach. Now, don't get me wrong. But ever since Russ took over, and this is why I like Justin Fields better. The impact that Russ has had on the rushing game, they're absolutely atrocious running the football now. Look, it was to be expected. You don't have Justin Fields running the ball and things like that. But they are winning at a 37% success rate, averaging an incredible 3.8 yards per carry over that 8-game span. Here's the issue. You don't have Pickens out there, so you're not throwing all those jump balls up there that you were.
At or behind the line of scrimmage, more throws like that, shorter, yeah.
Yeah, and they're not creative in the running game or the passing game. So what the heck, like, I don't know what the benefit is.
It's a formula that has low margin of error, really. I mean, if you're turning it over like you're just seeing right there when Najee drops the football, Russ fumbles, you commit a penalty that takes away a possible touchdown, and then you're kicking field goals. You miss tackles in the flat. This is how this team is supposed to play. You're supposed to be fundamentally sound. You're supposed to take care of the football. You're supposed to play complementary football. And when you play that, the margin for error, you don't have the quarterback that can overcome all of that. When something's wrong and a quarterback can just take over. I don't think that's Russ. He needs these deep balls to be completed, but that's a high degree of difficulty right there. So when they have things not go right, it's tough for them to overcome. So that's a team that has to play mistake-free to go far. But I do think it's a good football team that when they do play that way, I mean, they can beat anybody.
They're 29th in the league in rushing. So I thought we had when Arthur Smith came trotting into town.
I'd like to see Fields get in there a little bit too and be a little more creative. And then they're trying that, but still, I mean, any mistakes are big for this team. Mistakes are huge for this team, and that's a tough way to play if you're going to talk in Super Bowls, winning 3 to 4 games in a row.
Okay. I'm going to, scream here, man. I really am. Oh, my God. Move on from Justin Fields in this conversation. The Pittsburgh Steelers are a top team in the NFL right now. Stop with the backup quarterback nonsense. They could not move the ball with Justin Fields. So the run game was a little bit better, but they could not throw the ball. They couldn't pass the ball. They couldn't score points. Just stop already. Stop with the madness. Stop with the nonsense. It's so absurd. They played the Philadelphia Eagles, who are arguably the best team in the NFL. A lot of people are picking them to win the Super Bowl. They're the best defense in the NFL. This was always going to be a tough game on the road. The Steelers are banged up. They did not execute well enough. So I agree with that. This is the team, when you are like a defensive-led team, and you are going to have a little bit older of a quarterback like Russ obviously is. He's not 27 years old in his absolute prime. And so, yeah, you do need to play more mistake-free football. But the Eagles got off to a hot start because they have a great offense. They got A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Devontae. So that's going to be an intense offense to deal with. And although I think the Steelers actually did a pretty decent job, and the reality is yeah, that fumble was devastating because they were driving. They were absolutely driving. They could have tied the score. Instead, you have a 14-point swing where now it's 27-14. So it just changes everything. So I think this whole idea that everyone just wants to kind of pile on. And yeah, you're now missing your number one target. Your number one target in Pickens. The Philadelphia Eagles passing game plummets when A.J. Brown isn't there. Now, they're very fortunate to have someone like a Saquon Barkley and still have Devontae and stuff like that. But it wasn't too long ago everybody was ripping Jalen Hurts. So the fact that you now want to jump ship on Russ and be like, I want to see more Justin Fields. Well, Justin Fields is why you lost versus the Browns. Justin Fields is why you lost versus the Cowboys. So just stop. Just stop with the nonsense. How do you think Justin Fields would have done in this game on the road against Philly? The dude would have been frazzled. Yeah, he would have maybe been able to escape a few times and use his legs. But he can't run an offense. He can't control the line of scrimmage. Things feel like they're moving 10,000, miles per hour in his head. Russ at least knows how to, contain. He was leading that drive to go tie the game. To the point where you're like, oh, man. The Eagles are outplaying the Steelers, but hey, man, this is about to be a game. And then by no fault of Russ himself, there was that fumble, which was obviously devastating. But the defense stepped up. They came out and forced a fumble on Jalen Hurts, on Cooper DeJean, I think it was, off the punt. But then they couldn't capitalize on that. They only ended up getting a field goal. And the one drive, I think it was a punt. So now that's the problem. Going into the second quarter, they were 0-5 on third down with an average yards to gain 10.8. So that's a lot of no yards to gain and negative plays. That's gonna hurt you, obviously. And so they were 3 for 10 on third down. They only had 10 first downs on 9 total drives. And Philly doubled the time of possession, 40 minutes to 20 minutes. The Steelers only got to the red zone twice. So yeah, well, this obviously wasn't a great game, but Russ was 14 for 22. I think that's 107. I can't remember my own writing. 178 yards or 128 yards. I assume 178 yards and 1 touchdown, 94.5 rating. But yeah, 17 carries for 56 rushing. I don't understand how you're going to want to blame that on Russ. I mean, I don't know, man. I can't with some of this nonsense. Are the Steelers this dominant, ferocious team where teams are going to be sweating facing them? No, they're not. That's not who the Steelers are. When the Lions were really healthy and when the Eagles are firing at all cylinders and Josh Allen is on one, those are the teams that make you uncomfortable. We know that because Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the NFL. The Detroit Lions, again, before injuries, they are just stacked on stacked on stacked with weapons. The Philadelphia Eagles also stacked roster and Super Bowl pedigree. Like a lot of the players either actually went to a Super Bowl or they've won a Super Bowl. So yeah, that is intimidating. That gives you that feeling of like, oh, we got to bring our A game. The Steelers do not instill that level of fear, but that's okay. Because on normal days, they are incredibly well prepared. They know exactly what needs to be done. They were unable to get the job done when they were 100% not healthy, and they were playing literally a top team in the NFL. The Eagles are tied for the number 1 seed. And quite frankly, they should have the best record in the NFL if it wasn't for just a bad record. It was just a bad drop against the Falcons. So you're talking about literally, again, best team in the NFL, arguably. And it wasn't a perfect game from the Steelers. And if you think that you're going to be able to beat a team like Philly or just any top team in the NFL, when you're missing your number 1 weapon offensively, would I expect the Eagles to be able to beat the Buffalo Bills without A.J. Brown? I'm just not going to do it. It's too hard. I expect those teams to be able to beat lesser teams. I would expect, the Steelers to be able to beat the Colts. Again, I'm just making up teams here. The Broncos. So again, some of these other teams that are still good, but not like, obviously I'm not talking about bottom of the barrel Raiders teams because like you should be able to beat that team regardless. But I just mean like even like the medium, the good teams. Yeah, your team should be able to be good enough to be able to find ways to win those games. Like the Steelers have proven to be able to do, like Philly has proven to be able to do, like the Chiefs, the Bills, all these teams have proven to be able to do. But again, they're like, oh, well, they just don't have a quarterback that can just like take over. Well, I got news for you. At this point, there's really only like one quarterback that can actually reliably take over a game. That's Josh Allen. Because Lamar Jackson struggles. Patrick Mahomes certainly has been struggling. Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow. Probably Joe Burrow would be the other one. But his brand of special, being able to take over a game, he's he's a real pure pocket passer, so he needs someone who can catch the ball. But Josh Allen is the guy who can kind of do it all himself. So again, if you're holding that standard to the Pittsburgh Steelers and then using it as a reference point to bring them down, it's like, okay, great. So Russ Wilson is not as good as Josh Allen. Got it. Glad we figured that out. I do agree that they're a little bit more reliant on those deep balls. Because I even saw that opening drive, how they took that deep shot. And I'm kind of like, play a little small ball. Get, set up some nice screens. Get some of these quick, high percentage 4 or 5 yard passes. Do a little bit of that. And I would like to see them get a little bit more creative on the run game. Because their run game can feel a little stagnant, and it does feel like it's kind of just like hand the ball off and run, hand the ball off and run. And the truth is, the run game can be a lot more dynamic than that, and a lot more creative. And you can do some pretty awesome stuff with the O-line to be able to kind of, open up some spots. But I just can't believe after a game like this that you're now going to use this as a jumping off point to be like, well, Russ, Justin Fields. Makes no sense. I mean, that's just such nonsense. Nonsense. You know what? They surprised me. I said going into this game, I said, oh man, I can't wait. No matter what happens, if they lose, they're going to use this as a way to kind of bring down the Steelers. And if they win, they'll use this as a reference point to probably be like, what's wrong with the Eagles? A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, they're fighting, yada, yada, yada. And I said, either way, we're going to get an interesting take. And I didn't think I was really going to be surprised. Credit to ESPN. They did it. They surprised me. Congrats. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Pittsburgh Steelers? Are you ready to bench Russell Wilson and put in Justin Fields to lead the Steelers to victory? Let me know in the comments below. I'll read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.